happening now on Grid Tonight. Another chapter in the Alex Palou contract saga. Over a year after declaring his intention to sign with McLaren, what has caused the IndyCar points leader to do an about face? Jack Harvey and Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing have parted ways. What's next for Harvey's IndyCar career, and should RLL have allowed him to finish out the 2023 season? Triple Eight released Shane van Gisbergen from his Supercars contract and signed Will Brown to replace him in 2024. Can Brown fill the big shoes been left behind by the soon-to-be NASCAR-bound SVG? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. With me, Joshua Birch, Jackson Lambros, welcome back, and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We definitely encourage everyone to comment in the chat below and ask any questions. And we already have one person in the chat, our own Ben Snyder from Grid Live Encore. Really happy to have you here, Ben. And Josh, gonna let you take it away with tonight's top story.
Thank you, Kobe. Well, we thought we'd put this behind us last year, but Alex Palou has found himself in a big mess again. The photo here taken by Amber Pierce from Penske Entertainment. Now, in the story first reported by Jenna Fryer from the Associated Press, a letter was obtained by the AP sent by McLaren CEO Zak Brown to his Arrow McLaren employees. Brown told them that Palou had no intention of honouring his contract for next year. He added this was incredibly disappointing because they've invested a lot of preparation of Palou's expected arrival in 2024, lots of time, millions of dollars and resources. And according to the AP, Brown was reassured multiple times by Palou since this year's Indianapolis 500 that he would join McLaren next year. Brown added that McLaren's belief, commitment and investment and trust in Palou was misplaced and it wasn't being reciprocated. In response to this situation, Chip Ganassi broke his silence. Chip Ganassi said this: "Anyone that knows me knows that I don't make a habit of commenting about contract situations. Subsequently, I have been quiet since day one of this story, but now I feel I must respond. I grew up respecting the McLaren team and their success. The management does not get my same respect. Alex Palou has been part of our team and under contract since the 2021 season. It is the interference of that contract from McLaren that began this process, and ironically, they are now playing the victim. Simply stated, the position of McLaren IndyCar regarding our driver is inaccurate and wrong. He remains under contract with CGR." Now, there's been additional fallout from this situation with Palou's management team. Monaco Increasement Managing parting ways with him. They said that Monaco Increased Management is bitterly disappointed to learn about Alex Palou's decision to break an existing agreement with McLaren for 2024 and beyond. Together, we built a relationship that we thought went beyond any contractual obligation and culminated in winning the 2021 IndyCar crown and tracing a path to F1 opportunities. Life goes on, and we wish Alex all the best for his future achievements. Now, last year, the Palou conflict with Ganassi and McLaren went to the courtroom. He ended up getting a good deal from it. His expected final year driving for Ganassi 2023, McLaren F1 reserve / test driver, and what we believe to be a move to the McLaren family in 2024. Now, as Palou closes on his second NTT IndyCar Series championship, we may be heading to the courts for a second consecutive year. This year, we've seen Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri solidify themselves with the McLaren F1 team going forward. The Arrow McLaren IndyCar program has seemingly taken a step or two back this year, while Chip Ganassi Racing and Palou have been almost unstoppable in 2023. The link to the AP article is in the video description below. Jen, starting with you all today, and Kobe, with you, how much do you think the strong season and chemistry with Ganassi, a weaker Arrow McLaren IndyCar program, and the door seemingly shut on F1 played a role in Palou's decision to tell Zak Brown, thanks, but no thanks?
Yeah, and as we've seen this IndyCar season go on, I've been saying it since the early parts of the season. Why would Alex Palou want to leave Chip Ganassi Racing, considering the chemistry they've had and all of the race wins? And look what they're doing now. He could very well clinch the IndyCar championship after the next race at Gateway. And it really seems like that team has the right people in the right places. And Ganassi's been a top tier IndyCar team for a very long time now. So so that's why I was confused last year when I saw he was moving to, well, when we thought he was going to be moving to McLaren. The only reason why we thought that was possible because maybe an opportunity to race in Formula One. Now it doesn't look like that's going to be happening at all. And then looking at the Aero McLaren program, as you mentioned, Josh, in IndyCar last year, it looked like it would have been a really good move for Palou to move over to Aero McLaren. But this year, since they added another car full time, with Award, Rosenquist, and Alexander Rossi, it really seems like the team hasn't been the same at all. And Pato Award, we're running out of time to see him win a race in 2023. No, that has to be very frustrating for him since he is the de facto top driver at that organization right now. And when you compare Ganassi and Aero McLaren's form this year, it's very clear that Chip Ganassi Racing is a place to be. And it seems like Aero McLaren has some work to do to get back to where they were in 2023. So I really think that Palou's best bet right now, assuming the courtrooms don't, get a little crazy, I think returning to Chip Ganassi Racing on a long-term deal where he's made one of the highest paid drivers in the IndyCar series is probably going to be his best bet here.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I have to agree with Kobe. I mean, since the Indy GP in May, he has been just so far above everybody else with that team, and it looks like that's the way it's probably going to stay for next season. But this, as you said, Josh, just at the start of this whole thing, we thought we were done with this, and the mess continues at kind of the same sort of period in time as it broke last year in August. So these things come back around and bite you, and it looks like Palou, which we'll get to shortly, he's maybe a bit of his human side of reputation may have been a bit bitten by all of this. Interesting for Chip Ganassi, as he said in the statement, he does not talk about contracts in public. Interesting for him to come out and make that statement that he did over the weekend. Good evening to Adam, who says Alex Palou is smart staying with Chip Ganassi in 24. He'll be a contender next year. Well, it looks like if he does stay where he is, he'll be going into next season as a double and reigning and defending champion. Hello to Omi as well. Get your comments in with everything you've got to say about what we've got to say tonight in the chats as we go along. But yeah, looking like Palou potentially staying put, but reputation somewhat blighted.
Guys, we look at Palou's season by the numbers: 4 wins, 2 pole positions, 11 top 5s, has finished every single race, and every single time that's been within the top 10. And even if you look at the potential, even if you're making a jump to McLaren with the offer of potentially being an F1, how do you say no to departing from such a dominant program that you're with? So for me, it's almost a no-brainer for Alex Palou. I think in Zach Brown's defense, his 3 drivers have not done a fantastic job of, showing that they're an apples to apples project right now and can compete with Chip Ganassi if he were to stay in IndyCar, as much as I wish that was different. But honestly, I think there's no reason to be upset with Alex Palou at this decision. And if I'm Zach Brown, I should be kicking myself more than anyone.
Absolutely. And just flashing back to how all this drama started back in July 2022, Chip Ganassi Racing put out this press release stating that they exercised the team option to bring Palou back for 2023. Palou, of course, fired back with this response, accusing Ganassi of sharing information that he didn't approve of and made the decision to leave the team for personal reasons. Within minutes, McLaren put out a press release of its own welcoming Palou as a future McLaren driver, but they didn't specify what series he'd be racing in. Last year, Ganassi felt like Palou did them dirty, and now McLaren is the one who feels wronged by a driver. Could be a 2-time IndyCar champion within the next month. Do you think this hurts Palou's overall reputation and makes it harder to trust him? Also, where do you see him driving in 2024?
It's genuinely so hard to give you even an estimate of that right now, Josh. And we look at some of the other records of what Zach Brown has done to incentivize this move for Palou with money and with, promises of that F1 reserve role. And I genuinely don't think this hurts Palou's reputation at all for me. If anything, it's the ability to chase where you're going to be successful and where hopefully you're going to be happy rather than where you're getting a fatter paycheck. I think that's just going to help how people see Palou in the public eye. I don't know what you guys think about that, but for me, I only see this right now as good things for Palou.
Yeah, I guess on some degree, he's been swayed with, look at this F1 drive that, this could be yours, and was kind of lent towards that by McLaren. And as a McLaren fan, and have been for a very long time, all of this stuff that was happening in the summer with Palou and Piastri, I was sick to death of McLaren.
It's embarrassing.
Last season, it was, Jackson. You're right. It was embarrassing for a well-respected historical organisation like McLaren to court all these drivers like they did throughout last summer. It was just shocking, really. Where he goes next year, if he's going to be in IndyCar, and there is still a rumour that he may switch to F1, but not with McLaren, he surely will be in the 10 car alongside Scott Dixon and another driver in the 8, if that's Marcus Ericsson or not, which we may get to later on in the show. But if he's standing in IndyCar, surely it makes the amount of success he's had this year, it has to make sense that he stays with CGR. It has to.
Yeah, Matt, totally agree with you. I think if Palou does stay in IndyCar, it'll definitely be with Chip Ganassi Racing. But as we were saying, we have to wait to see what the course decides if we get to that point. And that's where it looks like it's heading before I continue on. Comment here from Matthew Owens. Glad to see you, Matthew. You said about Palou that he's got to win the Indy 500 before leaving IndyCar. He's come too close to leave second, ninth, and fourth in the last 3 years. Yeah, I really think we'll see Alex Palou at some point. If he continues to stay in IndyCar for the foreseeable future, he's going to get that Indy 500 crown. Like you said, he's too close, and he's really good at this track. And then you also said the Europeans here may be better to answer this on the prestige of an Indy 500 win by Europeans, but a Spanish driver has never won the 500. He's got a great chance to go down in Spanish sport and history. Yeah, that's a great point as well, Matthew. And speaking about Palou's overall reputation, I was reading an article on motorsport.com talking about what happens next in the Palou saga. And according to this article written by Charles Bradley, it was saying one paddock insider said that Palou is a really great driver, but he screwed his own brand by doing this, and he better get used to driving for Chip Ganassi Racing for the rest of his career. So obviously, whoever this paddock insider is believes that Palou has hurt his reputation. And I'm actually gonna be like yes and no that Palou has hurt his reputation. And the reason why I say I believe he's kind of hurt his reputation is because when he's flip flop like this, it really makes you wonder, if you're a potentially future employer or a sponsor, if you can really trust this guy to represent your brand to the best of your company. And I know you can blame it on the management and all of that, because at times it seems like his management was very chaotic. But at the end of the day, regardless of what your management do, you still have to bear responsibility for everything that happens to you. It seems like, Palou, it seems to be on his way to a second IndyCar championship, a top ride with Chip Ganassi Racing. As long as he stays with Ganassi, everything should be fine. But like everything, when time passes, things seem to get better. So if there's a lot of damage to Palou's reputation from this, once we get like several years into the future, I really think all of that will certainly die down over time. But yeah, I really think that Ganassi is probably going to be his best bet for 2024, unless we see some unusual circumstances.
I believe Jackson's got a question for you, Kobe.
Yes, sir, Josh.
something.
Actually, for the whole table
full
here,
of us. Hold on.
and Jack can feel free to go in also. And I want to say, Kobe, some fantastic points there, and maybe I should rephrase that for what I said. Probably is looking great to the fans right now, maybe off of the Christmas cards of a couple of IndyCar teams outside of McLaren as well. But let's talk about that AMSP to F1 bridge right now, because I want to point out also that Pato Award has got to be one of the biggest winners in this kind of fiasco. And if anything's going to help him on his trip to F1, at least as a reserve driver, that's going to be a massive help. But this is a huge contradiction with what Kobe's saying right now. But how are we feeling about Palou's chances of making that jump to Formula One outside of McLaren? I know he was in talk with Helmut Marko and the Red Bull guys. Has he maybe gotten closer to those gentlemen? Is there potentially a third party that we don't know about? Tell me what you guys think.
Well, from what I know, with the AlphaTauri seat, that's going to become Hugo Boss Red Bull something or other racing. That's it's going to be Hugo Boss Red Bull something or other. I don't know what it is.
Hugo Boss Orlin HBO.
That's the one.
What a mouthful.
Yeah. Oh God, I was going to go with HBO on the grid as well. Then I'll just get in trouble by Paramount. Not. I've got a feeling if Palou ends up at any team, it would be Alpine. Because I think there's a little bit of a thing there where they've both sort of been wounded by Piastri and McLaren. They're all sort of spying from there. It seems to be a nice little... It's just the things that Formula One goes, isn't it? It's the nice sort of like... to put it in better words as well, you know, that song A, B, C, D, E, bleep. That. It'd be a nice way to sort of put the middle finger up to McLaren and to Alpine as well, join up.
With Piastri seemingly being the first domino of this whole 12-month ordeal now, it seemingly would be weirdly fitting to have Palou end up in an Alpine seat. But Matt, Kobe, you guys have any thoughts on this?
Alpine's a good shout, but they would have to pay one of the current drivers out to get Palou in, and all the myriads of things that have been going on at Alpine, and we've talked about it on the show over the last couple of weeks. Is that an ideal situation? Maybe not. Aston Martin, maybe.
Ooh.
How many years has Fernando Alonso got left? And Lance Stroll is having a very down year. So maybe we could have a Palou Alonso duel. And to Matthew Owens' point before about Spaniards, I'm really not sure there's a massive Spanish contingent of people watching IndyCar in Spain. All they're interested in really in Spain is Fernando Alonso and MotoGP. So I really don't think there's much of a... I mean, outside of the UK and then outside of the 500, I'm really not sure there's much of a European base for IndyCar viewership in Europe.
And I've heard rumors of Lance Stroll potentially moving into a suit with his dad at Aston Martin in the next couple of years. And that being said, if Alonso is driving like he's been half of the season, the dude could wheel till he's like 40. Serious question from behind the mic. Sorry, is it okay if I get this? Can I do this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
From behind the mic, serious question for everyone, ignoring the money part. What is more prestigious, a middle-of-the-table F1 driver or a top-tier championship contending IndyCar driver? BTM, I feel like Brendan Hartley had to ask this exact question to himself in 2018 when he jumped into what was then Toro Rosso and had the opportunity to literally go to that number 10 Chip Ganassi seat. But, oh man, that's a tough question.
It's the one that we asked with Colton Herta, isn't it? About
really?
How does he want to go?
I'm sure Colton Herta's not even on the radar of an F1 team, considering the season that he's having in IndyCar. I really think Colton Herta needs to, get a few things straightened out and continue to grow as a race car driver. And maybe if things continue to go not so well for him at Andretti Autosport, maybe a change of scenery could be good for him. Maybe a move over to Penske. Will Power's not going to be around so much longer, or maybe Chip Ganassi Racing will have an open seat for him. But answering your question, Matthew, if it was me, I would rather be a championship contending IndyCar driver racing for a top team. I know the money in Formula One is a big draw, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much fun you're actually having when you're literally, just, you may not even be battling for points. You may just be just out there just driving around, not really have anything to race for besides, just filling up your bank account and all of that. But if I was a racing driver, I'd rather go out there and have fun in any car. And getting back to the question you asked, Jackson, I hope Alex Palou would stay far, 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 far away from Red Bull. Red Bull is the one
That's
team
some
I would
good
not
advice
want.
for Alex,
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, I would not want to go there because we've seen how awful they've treated their drivers. Poor Nick DeFries. Hope he's doing well out there. And
Oh, man.
yeah, but I like the point you made about Aston Martin. Matt, I think that would be a perfect place for Palou. He's had a good relationship with Honda over the years. That Aston Martin going to be having the Honda engine.
That's
so
right.
And that would be I think it would be a perfect place in F1, especially if Lance Stroll decides, to head over to the business side. And get away from racing, or if Alonso retires and we have another Spanish driver slot in the seat, I think that would work out well. And regardless of what Palou's future is, I think he's more than deserving of an F1 seat.
Alonso won't retire. They'll wheel him out in one of these cars as well.
They'll have to.
In a straight jacket.
Yeah. Don't tell me out yet. I could still race as well. Anyway, keeping with IndyCar theme as well, and the crazy silly season we've been having, it's got worse because Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing have parted ways with Jack Harvey following last Saturday's Gallagher Grand Prix at the IMS road course. Now, Harvey joined RLL at the beginning of the 2022 season with hopes of achieving great results together. Prior to last year, people were surprised by his departure from Meyer Shank Racing because they came to IndyCar at the same time and built that program into a competitive team. Harvey was the one who decided to make a leap of faith and leave MSR for RLL. At the start of 2023, Harvey moved over the number 30 Honda after a disappointing performance in year one, while Christian Lundgaard got the number 45 with the High V sponsorship. Now, the ride with RLL is over with 3 races remaining in the 2023 season. In his 2 years with RLL, Harvey's best finish was 10th place in 2022 on the streets of Nashville. Team co-owner Bobby Rahal thanked Harvey for being fully committed to the team, but for whatever reason, they weren't able to produce the results he or the team deserved. Conor Daly will replace Harvey in the number 30 Honda at the next race at Gateway, while the driver for Portland and Laguna Seca will be announced at a later date. Photo taken by Joe Sabinski from Penske Entertainment. Now, since the disastrous month of May, we've seen Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing finally put the pieces together and start turning this year around. Did Harvey get the boot at the worst possible time? And do you think he at least deserved to finish the final 3 races of the season?
Oh, wow. Jack Harvey has the worst luck ever. I agree with that. That is the worst possible time for him to get kicked out of the team here. I know heading into this season, I remember what we talked about on the Grid Live pre-race program about drivers we need to watch in 2023. And I said that Jack Harvey would be the one driver on the hot seat this year because he didn't meet the expectations from last season. And obviously it turned out being correct here with Harvey been released from his contract with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. And it's no secret, it's been a really tough start to the year for this team. Going to the last row shootout in the Indianapolis 500, Harvey bumping Graham Rahal from the field. And then once we got into the summer months, this entire is like, something clicked with this team. I know they made a lot of personnel changes over the offseason. They also made additional personnel changes in season when things were at an all-time low. They got rid of some of their engineers and some other people as well. And after that happened, we finally started seeing some changes, better results. Graham Rahal's been running a lot better. Christian Lundgaard got a win. Rahal got the pole for the Gallagher Grand Prix last weekend. Jack Harvey, we've seen him have some better runs as well. And it really seemed like, this team would finally start meeting the expectations of what we thought that they were capable of when they added these high-profile executives to RLL. Yeah, but unfortunately for Jack Harvey, seems like the writing was on the wall, and he's out of that number 30 Honda. And I do feel like he at least deserved to finish the final 3 races of the year, even if you're not going to bring him back next year. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see what's next for Jack Harvey's IndyCar career.
Yeah, just hasn't clicked, has it, at all? You just have to look at last weekend at Indianapolis. As you mentioned, Kobe, Graham has turned his season around really since Indy, as well as Lundgaard. But they struggled in the first half of the season. We've talked about that on the show throughout the year. But on Saturday, they were front row, Lundgaard and Rahal, and where was Jack? And he was nowhere. You'd think, what's the saying? High tide raises all ships. Well, Jack still was floundering in the mid pack, while his other two teammates were racing for and winning. Into the case of Lundgaard at Toronto last month. So it is a shame. Been a Jack Harvey, supporter for quite some time, since even before he made it onto the F1 paddock categories when he was in GP3. So it's a shame to see this. Hopefully he comes back stronger in some form, whatever form it is, for next season. Got a feeling he might turn his attention to maybe IMSA. He'd be a good GTD driver for sure. But interesting, yeah. They've gone away from him, but I think it's actually a good idea for RLL to maybe cycle some people for it, even if we have Conor at Gateway, someone else at Portland, and then someone else again at Laguna Seca. Get a feel for some more people in the cars, and it does give them a better option and some more data and all that kind of thing for next season going forward. When if this is to continue the RLL upturn, they need someone else in there that's going to continue to climb the mountain with them.
Nailed it on the head, Matt. Second place for Graham, fourth for a upset Lundgaard at that result, and for Graham to walk away from what was a season best 14th at that weekend, it had to be the last nail in the coffin. And since he's joined that team, started last year, I have genuinely lost sleep wondering why he has struggled in this move to what was considered so hard to be a step forward for Harvey, a higher caliber team. And there's so many reasons we could contribute to this. Kobe, you said personnel changes. Potentially, we don't talk about the priority that drivers get in multi-car teams compared to F1, but is he maybe backseat in priority compared to the new guy and the coach's son? It's hard for me to say, but I would take this early release as a positive for both parties. If you're RLL, you get to try out a couple guys for the last 3 races. If you're Harvey, making phone calls to a couple teams and trying to sell yourself is probably going to be better than whatever results you're probably going to get in the last 3 races. As sad as that is for me to say, as much as I love IMSA, I don't want to see Harvey in that seat just yet. And I think, Matt, if he does end up going back to Shank, he's going to be like, hey, welcome back. We've just got this kid who left to go drive IndyCar. You want to go give GTP a shot? And I think he deserves a spot I think he genuinely deserves a spot in this grid. And I think he's been treated harshly, and I want to see him come back, guys.
Adams agreed with the question as well. Yes, and yes, Jack Harvey deserved to finish the 2023 season. I think I'm with you on that too. And Matt says, side notes on RLL and how much better they've gotten. Graham led more laps Saturday than he had in the last 2 years combined. Just, was it 0.4 on the line?
I think it was in a Shake Shack car last time he was genuinely competing for wins.
Yeah, I nearly ripped my headphones out as well, just reminiscing about it as well. But honestly, I was, just commentating like mad on that one. I think we had a good weekend. We're getting that into HOTS, actually. Now, on Instagram, several figures in the IndyCar paddock offered words of encouragement for Harvey as well. Graham Rahal told his now former teammate that he enjoyed every moment with him being part of the team, and more importantly, as a friend. Jack Harvey did release this statement, says, it's no secret that my time at Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing didn't go as planned. It was not through a lack of effort. I leave confident that I put my everything into every moment as a member of the team. I am thankful for the time and effort that every crew member put in over the last 2 years. This has been challenging for everyone involved. I love my crew and their unwavering support. Only time will tell what the future holds. I am more motivated than ever to find a new home in IndyCar to showcase what I am capable of doing behind the wheel of a race car. We are not defined by our failures, but rather how we respond to them. This is just one chapter in my story, and I look forward to writing that next. We've already mentioned another one of Harvey's former teammates, Meyershank Racing. Of course, we made a big 2024 announcement at the end of last week. IMSA prototype champion Tom Blomqvist is moving from sports cars to the MSR IndyCar program full-time in 2024. Helio Casneves will no longer be a full-time driver in the series, scaling back to an Indy 500 only entry to keep the drive for five alive, who also becomes a minority team owner. His additional responsibilities include serving as driver mentor, team ambassador, and partner of the team's growing list of sponsors. So Blomqvist has one seat and the other still needs filling. Now, with the status of Simon Pagenaud up in the air and Linus Lundqvist continuing to impress in his absence, there's no telling what direction MSR when deciding who gets to be Blomqvist's teammate next year. Steak and Shake, says Ben as well, coming through. Yeah, Steak and Snake.
I'm from California. I don't think there's one in like a 500-mile radius of me, and I probably butchered that. I'm sorry, Ben.
So we've got a Five Guys. There's just about 2 miles
You guys
away.
really?
Yeah.
Five Guys,
And that's probably going to be how many people are going to be up for this IMSA seat as well. Sorry, this Meyershank Racing seat. Probably Phoenix as well. Now, is it possible? Thank you. Is it possible to see a reunion of Harvey and Meyershank Racing getting the band back together, or should he focus on getting a good seat for the Indy 500, or could move, as you said, to sports cars, be on the table?
Josh, I just mentioned it. I think it's impossible for Harvey to go back to Shank without him ending up in that GTP car, which I think he probably knows and could probably approach that as a safety net. But you think about where there's so many other openings. Where was Harvey's initial IndyCar start with at the 500 in 2017? Michael Shank Racing with Andretti Autosport. Maybe a mentality there of can't be worse than Devlin in that 29 car. I don't know. Obviously some rough endings between Coyne and Malukas. Potentially we could see him in that number 18 car next year. Difficult to say what's going to happen at Juncos next year. Maybe Harvey is that next step that crew needs, a seasoned veteran who's probably looking for improvements. Maybe that's the extra piece of the puzzle that they need. I cannot stress enough. Harvey is great for this sport. I think he needs to stay in the sport. And I think there's just so many opportunities for me, but I don't think Shank is going to be one of them, guys.
Yeah, and Shank obviously running that extra Indy 500 program for Helio, so that kind of one. Let's hope that Jack already at this portion of his career doesn't turn into a 500 guy.
No,
just comes out in May and runs the ovals. That is not what we want from him. Good. I didn't think about Coyne. That is a great point. That Coyne seat could be in like a Justin Wilson kind of style from 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was, when he got in and he started going really well and won races and contended. That would be a great landing spot for Jack if, and it does look very ominous that David Malukas won't be there next season, because we know that team goes well. They do exceptionally well with the budget that they've got. So that I think you're probably spot on there. I'd like to see that, Jackson. That Coyne spot would be a really good move for Jack.
Yeah, Matt, totally agree with you. I think driving the number 18 Honda for Del Coyne race would be a really good fit for him. It will be a low pressure environment for him, and maybe the team dynamic and driver dynamic will be a lot easier for him to get along there compared to Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. And we've seen time and time again in the past, some driver team parents just do not work out, like Bobby Rahal said, for whatever reason. And maybe Harvey and RLL, they just weren't a match. They weren't meant to be together. And maybe Harvey can find a team that he's meant to be. And yeah, Jack's still young. I don't think it would be good for him to be a 500 driver only, because if you turn into an Indy 500 driver only, it becomes very, very, very difficult to try to get back in to IndyCar full time. It's not impossible, but it's certainly a lot harder. And yeah, if there's nothing out there, obviously a move to sports car racing could be on the table, but I'm sure that's probably going to be a last resort for Jack Harvey. So I think, like Jackson was saying, although it was unfortunate that Jack Harvey is out of that seat now, it could very well be a blessing in disguise for him. You can get started on 2024 early. You can make those calls, start trying to line up sponsorship, and see if you can get a good seat heading into next season, instead of just get into September and then you've lost a month. Now he has an extra month and Harvey can start working on next year and see what comes out of that. And got a comment here from Upright Fossil saying Harvey just smiled when you told him he was my long shot bet for a top 10 and a 500. Nice guy for sure. Yeah, Jack Harvey seems like a really, really nice person.
Yeah, it's quite ironic, isn't it, that Bobby Rahal goes on about not making a success of things as well, and it's always disappointing. Just like when he tried to take Jaguar to the top step in Formula One as well, back in 2001. How did that go? Just a single year? Yeah, not great, was it? Then again, the Jaguar F1 team was sort of like a revolving door of who's next as team principal. And it's going to be again when the Ford engines come back. So that's going to be a lot of fun because I don't think Christian Horner's going to be sticking around forever. A rumor going around is that we're going to see Mattia Binotto lined up as a possible replacement as well going forward, as well as the current Ferrari sporting director who has just left, whose name escapes me, but everybody hates because
Laurent Meintjes.
That's it, Laurent Meintjes as well. See, I hate him so much. My name is just gone out my back of my brain as well. But yeah, Laurent Meintjes is all. It's just strategy department. Not one of what was it? Won 7 races in 4 years. It's Ferrari. Okay, starting in 2024, Triple H Racing Engineering has signed current Erebus Motorsport driver Will Brown to a 3-year contract. Brown will join Red Bull Ampol Racing next year as Brock Feeney's teammate in the Repco Supercar Championship. Now, with Brown taking over this seat, it means Shane van Gisbergen has been officially released from his contract next year to pursue his NASCAR ambitions in 2024. Team principal Jamie Whincup said, as he's made it clear from the very start, that Triple Eight would support SVG if he decided to move on from Supercars to showcase his talents overseas. Whincup also said Brown's been on their radar for many years since he drove one of their former cars in the Dunlop Super 2 series and believes that he's a good fit for their team culture. The photo courtesy there of Red Bull Ampol Racing. Big news as always, and considering the breakout year he's having with Erebus and getting a top-tier ride for 2024 and beyond, can Brown live up to the very high expectations of replacing one of the greatest drivers in supercar history?
Oh, boys, I've been ready and willing to talk about this since the news broke that this might be happening. Thanks to Conor O'Brien at V8 Sleuth last Monday. Will Brown to Triple Eight. Massive news. We've talked verbatim about SVG for weeks, and that is happening in some shape or form, and we'll talk about it when we get some more news about it. But Brown moving, it's great for that team because they've now got Brock Feeney, who's about to be completing his 2nd year, and Will Brown, who will be completing his 3rd year, I think. So they're going to have a young team now down there. They've had stalwarts for a long time. It was all Whincup and Lowndes for a long, long time there through the Vodafone days. And then they brought SVG in with the 3rd car. And yeah, his success has been well documented. But here comes this little upstart boy from the country, same place as Will Power is from, Toowoomba, Will Brown. I'm just so intrigued to see how this plays out on track from now until the end of the season, starting this weekend at the Bend, down outside of Adelaide, where the next round is this weekend. Because now we go into the weekend and the rest of the season with 2 Erebuses and 2 Red Bull cars fighting for the championship, Kostecki and Brown at Erebus, and SVG and Brock Feeney at Triple Eight, Red Bull. But now Will Brown is going to the other side. So is it Kostecki versus the world now for the championship? Because Will Brown's not going to get any preferential treatment from Barry Ryan and the Coca-Cola Erebus team. So we're going to see some pit priority being shuffled, especially when you get to the endurance races at Sandown and Bathurst coming up. But great for Will. He's an exceptional talent. And those two, the social media content, I feel like, coming out of Triple Eight Red Bull Ampol Racing next year with Willie B or Swill, as he's known amongst the paddock, and Brock Feeney is going to be really, really good. Happy for Will. It sounds like they wanted him. He was their first pick. What happens at Erebus is going to be interesting to see. There's been rumours about who will fill Brown's seat for next year. Thomas Randall in the mix, Scott Pye, Nick Percat, And Jack LeBrock, who does actually now seem to be the number one favourite to move there. He won the Super 2 Championship with that team a few years ago before making the move up to the big time with Tickford. So it looks like a reunion potentially for JLB at Erebus. But great to see this has finally been announced and we can get to talk about it properly. And Will Brown is on his way to AAA.
Yeah, this is definitely the biggest opportunity of Will Brown's career. And considering what we've seen this season, like Josh mentioned, he's having a breakout year at Erebus, winning multiple races, you know, that has a shot to win the championship this year. And considering the form that Erebus has in 2023, you know, it would make you think, why would Will Brown want to move on? Because Erebus right now is one of the top teams in Supercars, you know, taking the fight to AAA. And because it seems like AAA, you know, in the last few years, especially since Scott McLaughlin left for IndyCar, it really seems like, you know, Dick Johnson Racing has taken a step back, and in AAA's been that top team. And this year, although they're still one of the top teams in Supercars, it's still, you know, seems like the team is still struggling to get to grips with the Gen 3 car. And, you know, if you listen to Shane van Gisbergen, he'll tell you, you know, how the Gen 3 is going, and the team still needs to figure out some things there. And it's too soon to say how Will Brown's career move will be. Will this be the right move to go to AAA, or could it potentially be the wrong move? But anyhow, that driver lineup for AAA is really scary now. Brock Feeney, a guy who many believe is going to be a multi-time Supercar champion at some point, he's really coming into his own. And now you got Will Brown, who's, you know, the best is yet to come for him. I think it's really, you have to be really excited if you're AAA. If there's one guy you can get to replace Shane van Gisbergen in your driver lineup, I think this is certainly the best guy they could have potentially gotten out there on the market. And I think Will Brown is certainly capable of living up to the high expectations of replacing SVG. You know, as you said, Josh, one of the greatest drivers we've seen in the history of the Supercars Championship. And I believe we'll catch up on some comments in the chat right quick. Adam Lemery says to him, next year's Repco Supercars Championship will be the most wide open for a long time there. Yeah, you have no Scott McLaughlin, no Shane van Gisbergen. I have no idea who's going to be the champion next year. Yeah, so it's certainly going to be interesting to see how all that unfolds. And then Upright Fossil says any team that needs a big-time smiling face needs Stingray Rob because he went out of his way to accommodate the fans. Really glad to hear that from Stingray. And then Adam also says no SVG in the Repco Supercars Championship for next year. Who will be the star next year? I'm honestly not sure, but if I'm guessing, look at the AAA driver lineup: Brock Feeney and or Will Brown. Will you agree with that, Matt?
Yeah, Feeney and Brown, Brody, obviously. What will Mostert do next year? What happens to Waters? He's still not officially signed up for Tickford, although they said they've done a deal. It's not actually been announced yet, so has it or not? Who knows? I agree with Adam. It's going to be with the two superpowers, I guess, or mega powers to use a 80s wrestling reference, of McLaughlin and SVG not there. Anyone can and will win. And as I say, Brown's winning races. Kostecki's leading the championship. Feeney has proved himself in the year and a bit that he's been in. So going to be wide open. And hopefully we'll have some kind of more reference to who's where, and we can do a bit of a season preview on it when we get to March next year. Hello to Rod, who says, I think Kostecki might get a NASCAR contract. His starts at Indy were actually really good with almost no practice. Yeah, had a crash in qualifying as well. NASCAR talking about getting down under. We may be talking about that real soon also.
Ooh.
They need to get to Canada. As I said a couple of weeks ago, they need to get to Canada first before they even worry about going anywhere else.
Yes, it's very sad that SVG won't be in Australian Supercars next year as well. But if we do believe that he will be in NASCAR next year, I, for one, am very delighted because that means I finally get to commentate on him. Really been waiting years. But yes, I get to do a commentary as well. So that's going to be good. Okay, let's go back to Matt White for the latest from the Grid EPI update.
There was a moment in that race on Sunday, Josh, where Kyle Larson and Shane van Gisbergen were side by side, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. My two favourite drivers. It was mental.
How are you commentating on that?
Yeah, it was in my section of the racetrack too. Right, time for the Grid EPI update from a quietish week in terms of races this weekend. We only had the latest rounds of the GT World Challenge Australia. Talk more Australian talk. They were at Queensland Raceway at the weekend. I'd normally do this off my phone, but it keeps dying on me, so I'm going to have to do it off the notepad. Jeff Emery and Max Hoffer won on Saturday, and Liam Talbot and Garth Tander in his first start of the season in the GT Championship, getting the win on Sunday. So double wins for Audi. And now we have to wait all the way until the Clipsal, there's 50p in the jar, the Adelaide 500 at the beginning of December to find out who the champion is. And it's the middle of August. So they've got a big break now until the last round of GT World Challenge Australia. Let's have a look at the points. It's as they were from last week. There was absolutely no changes inside the top 50 or 60, with Brendan Hartley still leading the way by 0.1 of a point ahead of his Toyota teammates Rio Hirakawa and Sebastian Buemi. As you can see there, the top Super GT guys in the championship, Chio and Takaboshi, moved up to 6th and 7th last week, so they stay where they are. And the points running down as is. A couple of races this weekend to come. We've got the next round of GT World Challenge America at Road America, 2 races over the weekend. GT World Challenge Asia is at Okayama, the old TT AIDA circuit, and the DTM is at the Lausitz Ring. So there are the scoring races in the EPI coming up this week. Results and a points update on the show next week. There's the top 50, as was last week. As I said, no movement for anybody in the top end of the points this week.
And next, some more motorsports news from around the world. Last Sunday morning, only hours after he won the Knoxville National Sprint Car Race, Kyle Larson's livery for the 108th run of the Indianapolis 500 was revealed. Larson's number 17 Aero McLaren Chevrolet has the typical papaya orange colors with blue from the HendrickCars.com sponsorship. In return, there was some McLaren papaya orange on Larson's number 5 Chevrolet for next year's Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. The NASCAR Cup Series champion has already started to prepare for Indy by spending time at the Aero McLaren shop to build chemistry with the team, working in the simulator to get used to the Indy car. And he's scheduled to do the IMS Rookie Orientation Program in October. Larson will become the 5th driver to attempt the double, joining the likes of John Andretti, Tony Stewart, Robbie Gordon, and Kurt Busch. But Stewart is the only driver to actually run all 1,100 laps I meant miles, 1,100 miles there in 2001. And the photo there, courtesy of McLaren. And some more McLaren news. Rene Rast is not going to return to the McLaren Formula E team next year. He decided to pursue other opportunities and leaves an open seat, which could be occupied by departing Jaguar driver Sam Bird, according to reporting from the race. During Rast's only season with McLaren, he finished 13th in the standings behind teammate Jake Hughes. His best finish was 3rd in Saudi Arabia and scored points in only 4 out of 16 races. And last but not least, if you've been following AO Racing's journey in sports car racing, you probably recognize the bright green livery on the left as Rexy, the dinosaur. Now the team is set to introduce a bright pink Porsche named Roxy, the dinosaur. We'll see the Rexy livery on the number 56 Porsche in the FIA World Endurance Championship, 6 Hours of Fuji with Gunnar Jeanette and Matteo Caroli. Meanwhile, Roxy will debut in IMSA at Virginia International Raceway on the number 80 Porsche with Seb Priya and PJ Hyatt. If you check out the team's website, they're currently selling new Roxy merchandise alongside the Rexy gear, graphic courtesy of AO Racing. Next, I'm going to turn over to Matt for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
I'm going to steal Jackson's line from social media earlier in the week, and Rexy is going to be big in Japan at Fuji. There's the Pick a Winner. Look how close it is now at the top. It's a tie between Kobe and Alex. Kobe's been leading this thing for weeks, but suddenly he's been caught all of a sudden. We've got plenty to pick from this weekend, and we're going to start with tomorrow night's SRX race at Lucas Oil Speedway. I kind of have the feeling that I generally pick the guy that's won or wins the week after. Seems to be the way I've picked these races this season. I'm going to go with the guy that won last week, Tony Stewart, to win tomorrow.
I'm going to go with one of the oldest drivers in the SRX field. He won the NASCAR Penny Series race on dirt on Monday night. Unfortunately, last night's part of the doubleheader got rained out, so they're going to be racing tonight. Give me Kenny Schrader. I think Kenny Schrader is due for an SRX win.
Going to go with the guy that James Hinchcliffe and Alexander Rossi like every single week. He's done a lot of dirt racing outside of IndyCar. He's always kind of an aggressive guy. Give me Marco.
Excellent. That is on tomorrow night, of course. So next up, Supercars, as I mentioned, back at the Bend this weekend. Race 1 is Saturday, and then we're back to the free race format for the weekend. Race 1 Saturday and then 2 on the Sunday. I can't bet past a Red Bull or a Erebus car, but the guy that hasn't been talked about all week is going to win the first race. Brock Feeney wins Saturday.
Well, going with Mr. Sunday on Saturday. Yeah, I'm still gonna play it safe here and go with his teammate SVG, another top 10 in NASCAR, and he's gonna get a top 10 in Supercar, top 5, and get the race win as well. And Adam Limmery said for SRX is also Ken Schrader. And now, Josh, who's your pick for Supercars?
I was going to go for race 1 with Will Brown, to be fair. Just sort of second of the championship. Just going to go straight in the middle between you two.
You guys want some fun trivia for this weekend? No driver has scored more podiums since Supercars has started racing here than Chaz Mostert, and none of those have turned into a win. And I think that's going to change this weekend, guys.
I'm just going to change my pick because it's suddenly come to me. Andre Heimgartner. He's been on a roll. He got a win there a couple of years ago, his first win in the championship. I'm going to go with Andre Hairdryer to win on Saturday at the Bend. Lastly, for pick a winner this week, MotoGP is back at the Red Bull Ring. You may have seen it in the background of Josh. He's ready for the weekend, and it's, of course, a sprint race on the Red Bull Ring track with the chicane, of course, on the run up the hill after that scary crash a couple of years ago. I am going to pick... It's going to be a Ducati because it always is, and a Red Bull. I'm going to go with Enea Bastianini to pull one out.
That's a great pick. And for starters, I'm actually not going to go with Pecco Bagnaia for once. So give me Jack Miller.
Oh my God, there's a wasp.
Is that your pick?
Yeah, I forgot. There's a wasp nest just outside my room, and I've left the window open because it's so hot in here. And there's a wasp. Oh dear. Well, I'm going.
You want me to go?
No, I'm done. Okay. If you see me go like this. Okay, I'm going to go with. Oh, Adam got it as well with Brad Binder as well because he's won here before, and that Red Bull is quick at this circuit. So I'm going to go with Brad Binder.
I don't even want to talk. I just kind of want to watch this for a little bit, if that's okay.
I've already got a few minutes. Yeah, Brad Binder.
I was going to go for that too because he's won here and because, I know he's South African, but Austrian team, Austrian manufacturer at the Red Bull Ring. I thought that was cool. Give me Brad Binder. Keep going.
Cool. And that's it. And there'll be more, of course, picker winners on the social medias over the weekend with NASCAR as well at Watkins Glen this weekend to add to the picker winner list along with the 2 other Sunday Supercar races and the main race for MotoGP. So we move on to Hots and Knots, and Josh is on a time limit, so I'm going to open the... That's a
it's rubber.
Okay.
Rubber.
It's rubber, don't worry. It's a prop I brought. Just to knock it out.
He's gone with the Mick Foley baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire for for the wasp. But Josh,
big. Go on.
I take it your knot's going to be that there's a wasp.
Yeah.
And your hot's going to be if you get him.
Yeah. Okay, there it is. Yeah, I haven't got a knot, to be fair. I really enjoyed this weekend. My hot was actually the British Touring Car Championship because of how great it was. There was honestly so much competitive racing. It was one of the best weekends we've seen in the touring cars in a long, long time. 3 races on the Sunday, cracking action, and it was brilliant all the way throughout as well. Race 2, I think, was one of the best I've seen in the touring cars ever. Certainly one of the best calls I've ever done as well. I really enjoyed doing it. And the IndyCar as well, to go down to the last lap, I thought it was one of the better races we saw in the dry at IMS as well on the road course. Where's it gone?
Matthew Owens has just sent a message into the USRN group chat saying he didn't have you trying to get a wasp on his bingo card.
I don't think anyone did.
Well, they keep coming in the bathroom as well. It's really annoying because you're in the bath in the morning, and all of a sudden you have it's going by you as well. So how quickly can you get out of the bath?
Jackson, your turn.
Okay. Wow, this is something. Hots for me. Gotta give one to Christian Lundgaard. Still just proving everyone wrong, proving Rahal wrong. Graham Rahal, the whole RLL team, honestly, just for defying expectations and just showing how far they've come since the month of May. Chip Ganassi, who never gets mad about anything like Jose Ramirez and just decides to take the gloves off and swing, which we've never seen before. So another hot to Mr. Ganassi, and tell my Outlap viewers happy Drip Wednesday. It's a little joke we have with Drip Ganassi.
My hot's also Ganassi related. Scott Dixon, again winning on the alternate strategy. The man just makes fuel for fun. And on the race that he broke the consecutive starts list, whoever's got that pen just needs to stop writing the Scott Dixon script. Apart from if you want to add another Indy 500 win. Yeah. Finally into it. That was excellent. Pure racing at the weekend in both IndyCar and the Cup race. It was great. There was no manipulation, especially with the stage ends cautions going away on the road courses, just added to it. Michael McDowell, just a great story for him to win. He's 2 race wins in the Cup Series at Daytona and at Indianapolis. There's no 2 other places you'd want to win. And he did it in a timely fashion by getting himself in with that win. My other hot, I think, is that Kobe threw up the graphic before of the Larson paint schemes. The Cup car looks just mint. That orange and blue just looks great. Not so much fan of the IndyCar paint scheme, but the Cup car paint scheme looks tremendous.
I wish I had the
I think
force.
that's it for my hots.
Any
more knots?
I can do a nod. I'll take a nod if Josh is busy.
Yeah, I haven't got one anyway.
I was saying this in chat, and I think Josh will agree with me. Yes, that Cup car scheme is glorious, but I think IndyCar has a serious problem of having way too many orange and blue cars, whether it's the McLarens, whether it's the PNC car. Why does I know there's like sponsorship like commitments. Why do you have to run the same car paint scheme? You literally you're free from those rules in F1. You can make those cars separable, and you choose not to. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's just I don't know what's hot. Scott Dixon and Michael McDowell at IMS, of course. Adam, a not for me, unfortunately, would have to be Mike Rockenfeller, and that might be mean and punching down at him. But I mean, the guy had a lot of experience in a, albeit way quicker version of the Cup car. And he was for sure brought into that program at the last weekend for circumstances that we're not going to talk about. But I was certainly hoping for more out of him. And I really, really hope that isn't the only time we see him in a Cup car. And just the ability for him to go with everyone to run with the Garage 56 crew was really cool. And I'm going to stop talking.
He's going to be in the car again this week at the Glen, of a track he has much more track knowledge of in that car. So hopefully he goes better as Josh still continues to duck and bob and weave. I wasn't going to have a knot, but I will piggyback onto Jackson's paint scheme knot. There's too many blue cars in the Cup Series. There's too many blue cars in the Cup Series. It's the same thing. Okay. And they all ran together for most of the race at the weekend. As my phone does yet another restart. It's lost count. On my other knot, as you mentioned, Mike Rockenfeller, it reminded me of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. taking out Kamui Kobayashi for no fathomable reason whatsoever, which I actually swore on air when it happened. I, again, apologise for that. But Ricky goes Recce again. Wasn't great. I think that's pretty much it, as Josh is about to have to leave.
Yeah, okay, this could be the quickest wrap-up in history. You ready for this? Okay, taking a look at our upcoming schedule. Saturday, Grid Live pre-race show. That is at noon Eastern. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up. That's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Watkins Glen International. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Grid Live encore. A full recap of the ARCA and Xfinity at the Glen and more in the show. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach the milestone of 680 subscribers now. Help us reach our new goal of 700 subscribers as we go to our road to 1,000. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get the notifications. Follow all our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, and David investing each month in the Grid Network. We encourage you to join the amazing group of people who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month as well, we can start expanding our coverage, bringing new members onto the team, and also getting them on site to do more coverage as well. The link to all of that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, the Buy Me a Coffee link as well, get your name on the board and invest as much as you want. And consider consider buying a specific on their personality a cup of coffee, they'll thank you on the air. For Matt White for Good Endurance Performance Index, Kobe Lamberton's podium finish, and Jackson Lambros, I'm Josh Rose. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. There's bees. Bye-bye.
Mic drop.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.